It's preparing the live stream right now. So we just want to give it a few more minutes. Kirsten will let us know when we're ready.
So everyone, we will do a Pledge of Allegiance. I think they'll put an image on the screen, and I'll just lead it, and then we'll go ahead and go into our regular meeting. Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to our Wasatch County School Board of Education Zoom meeting. First ever. We welcome those who can join us. We will start this meeting. Well, the date today is Tuesday, April 28th. We'll start this meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance, and I will lead that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. The purpose of this meeting is primarily informational. We do have one consent item that has to do with school land trust, and I'll entertain a motion to accept the consent item for school land trust plans for J.R. Smith Elementary and Daniels Canyon Elementary.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, Blake Baird.
Aye, Tyler Bluth.
Aye, Corey Holmes.
Hi, Mark Davis.
Aye, Tom Hansen.
Motion carries. We will now go ahead and go into the information. In the information items, Wasatch County High School graduation updates, and I'll turn the time over to Superintendent Paul Sweat.
Okay, great. Thank you. We appreciate everybody's work on this. Our Principal Todd Johnson and our directors and his people at Wasatch High, and special thank you to the graduation committee that oversees graduation and puts many hours of hard work into the graduation ceremony each year, and I'm sure probably twice that many this year. But we'll go ahead and turn the time to Todd Johnson to give us what has now been, through very multiple meetings and a survey that I went out that I think all the board members have access to, and much discussion, including a couple of meetings with our health director. They've come up with a proposal, and we're excited to have Todd present that to us tonight.
Thank you, Superintendent. Some of these ideas we've discussed before, but many of them are relatively new since I last met with you. But what we would like to propose tonight is that each of our seniors have the opportunity to come back to Wasatch High School individually, where they will record a video in front of in one of our iconic locations, like in the Commons, in the auditorium, in front of the Rock, which is in front of the high school, next to the W at Wright Tree Stadium. You get the idea, but what we're proposing is that the senior in cap and gown would be able to make a video with their diploma cover where they would announce their name as graduate and the name of their parents. And then we would edit all 526 video shots into one processional video for a video recorded graduation. That processional would follow traditional speeches like we normally have at past graduations. We'd like to propose that this recorded video play on May 20th at 5 p.m., which was the scheduled time for our planned graduation. Following the video, the video recording then would be logged for anyone to view that recording at future dates at Wasatch High School Sting TV. So it would play live and then it would be archived. We are also proposing that later that night at dark, there would be a fireworks celebration. I've contacted Danny Edwards on that, and he has sent me a cost estimate of $5,000 for that fireworks show. And that the fireworks would shoot from an undecided current location, potentially from Memorial Hill or Southfield Park, some central location within the valley, to as a unified effort to celebrate our seniors and our graduates of Wasatch High School. There was another proposal today that I thought was very strong, that at scheduled disclosed time that evening, we would encourage the entire valley at whether it was at 8:20, 9:20, or after the fireworks show, to celebrate with pots and pans and whatever noisemakers they could find, just as a shout of unison to celebrate the accomplishment of our seniors. I thought that that was also a really strong idea that people could get excited about. I could just imagine the whole valley shouting out for our seniors. All of these events would be household celebrations. There would be no gathering, and it would give our seniors a chance to celebrate with their families in their household by watching the graduation recorded, and then to view the fireworks and to have a shout out like I just described. The way that we would set that up, we have caps and gowns that have now been delivered to Wasatch High School, 3 pallets of them. And we would like to disperse those to the seniors. I think since I last talked to you, we were talking about keeper gowns, but in order to get the gowns in this fast, we had to go back to rentals. We would like, if you approve, to get the caps and gowns to the seniors as fast as we can so that they can prepare them in order to come back to the school at their appointed time to make their video. We would need to have the video done for editing by May 15th. And in order to do that, the proposal again is to have the caps and gowns curbside for families to drive by and pick up, and then they would return back to the school at their appointed time. The way we would schedule the appointments would be just like the way the counselors are currently scheduling their PCCRs with families. There is software where seniors could go in and schedule a location and time, which we are hoping would open for next week and run through May 15th. We feel like that this would follow county health ordinance because there would be no promotion of gathering with this event or with the graduation. Seniors would come in individually to pick up caps and gowns, come in with only household members to record their video, and then they would watch graduation from home, including the fireworks show. So I think that that's really the safest way to do that. And also would include a very unique celebration that I hope our seniors would appreciate. Discussing today, there's been more effort that has gone into graduation than ever before. But as you also can see in the document in front of you, we acknowledge that really what our seniors want to do is gather together. And that's just not an opportunity that we will be able to provide at this year's graduation. Nonetheless, I hope that they would see this effort as a token of our appreciation for their years in schooling and for the foundation that they've built. Kirsta, I think I've covered most things in this document. I don't know how much of it we want to read and review, or if we just want to go to questions.
Let's go to questions at this point from the school board.
So Todd, tell me a little bit about the school will provide Wasatch High School class of 2020 yard signs and a class-wide unifying moment. What is that?
Okay, so the yard signs are already being received by our seniors, and that it's been fun to watch those show up in their front yards. Some patrons have called and asked for signs because they've seen that others have them and they don't have theirs yet. And the answer to that is the scheduled delivery has been this entire week. And so if they don't have them yet, they are on the way. And so that, yeah.
Sorry, is that the sign that Tom had in front of his with the flag in his yard? Or is it a different sign?
I didn't see a picture of Tom's sign. They say "We Are Wasatch" and have all the seniors' names in the 2020.
Yeah, that's it.
Was that it, Tom?
Yep, that showed up like 15 minutes before the board meeting. So
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I slammed it in the ground and raised the flag.
Mine too. What's the plan with the flags?
So I'm not sure on the flags. I think that those were gifts to the board members. Is
Okay.
that correct, Superintendent?
I'm not sure either. Maybe Stacy, do you know?
It's Kirsta. Yes, she says that they were a gift and were
Okay.
part of the idea, Todd's idea of a black and gold, painting the town, painting the
Celebrate.
valley black and gold in May.
Get them up as best we can in our house, kind of an idea.
I have one of those flags hanging from my porch. I'd love to see as many of those as we have in stock hanging around the valley.
Okay,
That's what Tom did, you guys. Can you see that?
Wonderful.
I like it.
The
I do
only
too.
people getting the flags are the board members.
Okay,
Yeah. The seniors will
much-
just get the sign.
How
Okay.
much do the flags cost if we wanted to reproduce them?
Oh,
And how quickly could we get a shipment of flags?
I know that we talked about those flags, and what we have ordered is window stickers, and those we should have those at any time. They're smaller than the flags, and I think we got the window stickers for $6 a piece. We could order more flags, though. We've been working with Signorama on a lot of our signage and messaging.
And what's the window? Maybe the window sticker would do the same thing as the flag. Is it a large thing that someone could put in their front porch window?
Yep.
Okay, that works then. That works.
similar to the flag, Todd, like it says "Expect to Excel" and looks similar, the sticker.
Yeah, not exactly like that, but it does have, I mean, it's all Wasatch logo.
Okay.
It looks
I
good.
like it. It's all good. Hey, Principal, what happened to the coming through the horseshoe car parade?
Yeah, that's where I thought we left off too.
Yeah, I really like that idea, but still too many concerns on promoting a gathering at a given time on a given date. And even though we were confident that we could keep seniors and household members in the car, there was no way to guarantee that the celebration would continue at another spot. Some apprehension that extended family members would be coming into our valley as we tried to celebrate at the same time on the same night by inviting patrons to a certain location. And we felt like that this video would better keep seniors at home in their household.
Was that a concern by the health department to us?
County leadership, including health department.
Okay.
So that was the trade-off, was actually having them come to the school, which is much more work. But we feel like it's more personable, that they'll have that video to put in their archive, that they can have that forever. Having actually get to see their graduate. I mean, if you think about it in these terms, I either get to drive through the horseshoe and pick up my diploma, or I get to sit at home with my extended family, having a family party at my house and see my graduate hand their diploma in a cap and gown by one of the legacy articles at the high school. I think at the end, people will appreciate the direction that this has gone. I think it was a good decision. It's my 2 cents worth.
I like the idea of the fireworks celebration. I anticipate that people will get in their cars and go find a spot to watch it, as opposed to watching it from home. But
Where are they being launched from?
Well, I wonder if we can talk about that. I think there is some concern if we announce the location that would promote some kind of a gathering. And I think we do need to announce that families are encouraged to stay home because the fireworks will be coming from a central location. Still working that out. We can work with Danny Edwards on that, and where he can get permission.
You're gonna have certain people gather to come from Wallsburg to watch. I mean, you're gonna have a little bit of that happen.
well, and I think if we send the message that we encourage people, the importance of still social distancing and staying in their cars, even if they stay in their cars and watch it, I don't know. I understand that may tend to still a bunch of people meet somewhere, get out of their cars, and we don't want that. But maybe we can emphasize that if you don't watch it from home, you stay in your car type of thing. I don't know.
Well, the most central location in town is Southfield Park, so that's probably where you can get a good view from Center Creek to Midway.
Yeah.
I think if you just shoot them high enough, we can still see them from Wallsburg.
Okay. I don't know you can see anything from out there.
Let's go out to that new piece of property that we just bought. 60 acres.
Yeah, shoot up there. Ours.
Not a bad spot.
If they won't let us over there in Southfield Park, we can just go across the street.
Well, I like the idea of that. I appreciate that thought because I think that's nice.
Fireworks may become a tradition.
Yeah, maybe.
They might be.
Yeah. Any other questions for Todd, board members?
I think it's a great idea. I think it's well thought out. I like it.
I do too.
Thank you.
Oh, Todd, I did want to just ask, we did put a survey out. I assume that the responses were taken into consideration as we planned this.
Yeah, the letter that we had on the screen that is being proposed addresses that, and it addresses that we took feedback from the patrons that responded to the survey, as well as from county leadership, including the health department, and that we've taken everybody's ideas and tried to come up with something that worked and that was celebratory for our seniors.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Hey, do we have any idea what the county will do with restrictions and health department 20 days from now or a month from now? I'm just wondering if there's some motion to open things up. Could we adjust as we got closer to maybe make a little bit more of a effort to be less virtual and more in person?
We have a document that we're going to show you later that I think will show you the what they're going to loosen up, and in 20 days, it's still going to be the same. I was on a meeting today with them, and we'll show you the document in a minute, but I think that even by the 20th, you're going to be under the same document that's going to come out here in a day or two.
Okay. Because what I'd hate to do is we're all cooped up virtual and people are out and about. And being out and about is good for the psyche.
If something changes, I think we can be flexible and quick on our feet. I don't see a problem with that, Tom. I
What are you
think
implying, Tom? What are you saying?
Well, I like the parade. I like lining the streets. I like seeing people out and about and being a part of the community. And so if we can do groups and segments, and I mean, I know the parade idea got shot down somewhere between last time we talked and now, and it's probably for good reason. However,
Sean, is that something we can go over right now, or do we have to kind of wait? Can you show that document now?
That's up to the board and the superintendent.
yeah, we're good with that. Can you put that up?
This is what you're talking about is supposed to happen 20 days from now.
Well,
Yeah,
I think what you'll see is that large group gatherings are going to be still banned for a long time. In fact, it's probably something we're going to be dealing with when we come back to school in the fall. At least that's the conventional thinking today. We hope that by September things are pretty normal, but they're still talking about large group activities being banned for some time.
So
And
this,
large group, I'd say over 50 or 60 people.
this document right here is on the county website under the coronavirus link. And I don't know if we can show you how to get there, but if you go on to Wasatch County, it will, there's the icon of Corona homepage. You click on that about halfway down. It says Utah's guidelines for 2.0 or something like that. That's where this document is, and it's for the opening up of things. It has 4 phases. It has red, which we're in right now, orange, which is the moderate risk, which is most likely going to happen
Right.
first.
That's what he announced today.
Yep. So there we're in the moderate risk, and I don't see that changing for the next month. It could be in 2 weeks, but I highly doubt it. And so we have to go based on this moderate risk of what we're going to be able to do. And you can see there's not a whole bunch of differences. And I would encourage you to go on there and look at it and read it carefully about what things are going to be allowed. Face masks are still there. School's still closed, but gradually opening up things. And they've used the terminology of the dimmer switch on the light bulb is going to get a little power to it. And so with this graduation plan, I think in 20 days, again, we're going to have these same restrictions of groups of 20 or less. And as we go down through this, there's some other things tonight that we want to talk about, and it's on the agenda. I'm not sure when you want to do that, but I'll preface that by saying at some point we need to have a discussion about what you guys want to do with the pool. I'll tell you that it is possible for us, and we have a little guideline of what things we would do to open the pool, and it would fall under this moderate risk, and the health department has given us the clearance, just like they have to gyms, when this is enacted, that we could open the pool if you guys say, yeah, let's explore that a little bit. So I need a little direction with that. Steve and his crew are formulating a plan that fits the health department guidelines following this 2.0 that would ensure safety of patrons as well as our school employees, but to gradually open up the pool first.
So that's on the agenda for the last item. Let's circle back to that, Sean, if that's okay.
Right.
Is item 5. And so Tom, did that help a little bit with that? I mean, I think if they do open it up more, with what superintendent said, I think we could be flexible. I don't think it will personally either, but let's be prepared in case.
So help me understand why the parade got shut down. Who shut it down? Why it got shut down? What was the decision that was made to shut it down? Because I like that idea.
I don't think
I like the idea of lining the streets, socially distanced, and cheering on the graduates.
Well, you want me to speak to that, Todd, or do you want to speak to that? I'm happy to, if you want me to.
Yeah, that would be great.
I don't think that as people thought about the parade, I don't want to throw any individual under the bus here, but I think as people thought about the parade and as time went on after our last board meeting and the discussions continued, they just didn't feel like it was possible to invite all of those cars to come drive through the circle at the high school and not have them end up somewhere outside of their cars, giving hugs, interacting with one another. The other major issue, and maybe even larger than the gathering, is if you have a car parade, all of a sudden they felt like extended family would be coming in from many different parts of the not only the state but the country to be a part of this and line the streets and watch this car parade. And so you would be inviting a lot of outsiders into Wasatch County for this one event, and they didn't say hell no to me, and I don't know if they did to Todd, but they did express some serious concern with it. And I think at the end of the day, Todd and his committee ended up liking the come to the school and get video walking across the stage and getting your diploma or whatever it might be in the school better than the car parade at the end of the day anyway.
We saw some national literature on this idea and also received a parent request using another state high school as an example, and felt like that this would be a fun idea and that we could do this at Wasatch, and maybe some family members would choose to stay at home in their county or out of state to watch instead of coming into Wasatch County if it were recorded.
Can I ask a question? Just because I get asked about it all the time. I don't know if I don't want to overstep the agenda, but what are you doing about yearbooks?
Okay, so yearbooks, they will be passed out, but they won't be ready when they usually are. The publisher is backlogged because they haven't been able to work. And so yearbooks, we'll probably have yearbooks somewhere in June. And then just like passing out caps and gowns, we would do a curbside distribution on an announced day for students to come pick those up.
As far as the mingling and the signing, it's not going to happen.
No, you just have to drive through the horseshoe and pick it up.
Okay.
The middle schools will have their yearbooks in time to give them out before the end of the year. But it'll be the same. They'll just pick them up as they at a curbside service.
Okay.
Hey, what's the moderate direction or guidance for businesses? I couldn't read it that fast.
Where do you want to start, Tom?
When do we open up businesses? Is it in the moderate?
Oh, geez. We don't have time to talk about that.
The best place, Tom, would be to go to the Wasatch County site, click on that, and I can show you if you guys want. I can just share my screen. Do you want me to do that? Want to take time?
I think what I'm getting to is if we have the opportunity based on this moderate section, I know it's not yellow, but it's not red. And
it's orange.
It's orange, right? It's the middle ground. And there's a chance to have groups of 20, and there's a chance for businesses to show some support because they're soft open. I think we should push the envelope and take advantage of that. So whether it's a parade or whether it's something else, I'm in the mindset of the governor tells us what to do, the superintendent tells us what to do, the health department tells us what to do. And if we have a little bit of an opportunity for local control here with graduation, I'm feeling like we should do that. And if it's a mix of virtual and some kind of activity that's limited to 20 people, and we do it with the orange in mind, people have the choice. They have the freedom. If they don't want to show up, they're worried, they can stay home. But if we're building a graduation for red and we're in orange, I think it's a miss.
I think those are valid concerns. I think we've got a lot of concerns that we have with families that are immunocompromised. So even though it does seem like we're lightening up, we as a school system, we do have families and students even participating in this year's graduation that it's still a pretty high risk situation for them.
No, and I appreciate that, and they should stay home if they're worried. But those that don't, and if we're in orange, we should build a graduation around orange to some degree. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, Tom, what we're finding is we're trying to open our business, and the governor points out a couple different things. Is one, that it's very extensive to open that's what we're finding, to open a business within this moderate category. And also, everything doesn't fit into the same box. And then further, what we're finding is it's not just what the governor is saying, it's more important of what the local health department is saying. So let me give you an example. So we're trying to open the gym, and is it 10 feet or is it 6 feet of a bubble around each machine? You know, if we open our gym at 10 feet, it doesn't work. Whereas it can maybe work at 6 feet. That's just an example of the extensiveness of everything that we're dealing with here. So if you're looking to have, I totally understand what you're saying, trying to create a special experience where we can create a little unity together. It's such an extensive list that we're going to have to go down, and that's individual for every business. You know, it's applicable. There's a list for the gyms. There's a list for the restaurant. So it's easier said than done. Okay, we're in the moderate category. Let's just follow what the governor is saying. But there's so many different layers within that. So I think I love your point, but I don't know how you're going to pull it off.
Oh, that's well said. I'm just wondering if we can pull it off through some type of a car parade. I think that's where I'm at.
I would love it. But if
write down 40.
If you're looking at moderate list, the moderate orange category, well, we could talk about that for a long time.
I think also we are hearing from our local health leaders and our local county government leaders asking us to do this more virtual, if I'm understanding right. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But having said that, I like the idea too. We could certainly see where we're at in 2 weeks, but I think we probably need to move forward. We can't wait to do the videos in 2 weeks, right? We got to move forward with that.
I think it's a great idea to be nimble if there is changes, though. I mean, that's what we're finding with this thing. It seems to change every day sometimes. Yeah, let's have this idea of what we're moving forward with the video. Heck, if we get something else, that's gravy. But I don't see it happening.
And I think that's to superintendent's point. We could probably be flexible enough if something happens and we're seeing some more flexibility, we jump on it. Yeah. But as of today, we move forward with the plan. I think we need to. Okay, thank you, everyone. Let's move on, Superintendent, to the next item, secondary education grading, end of year update.
Okay, so we're going to turn this one over to our academic leaders. That's the Garrick, Jimmy, and Eric show, and we'll let them walk through this. Where we didn't feel like there was a need for any type of vote or resolution on the graduation discussion. We do feel like it would be a good idea for the board to pass a resolution as it relates to grading. So Again, the grading resolution is in a state of a proposal. We'll let the directors walk us through that. Principal Johnson's online. Todd, feel free to jump into that discussion as well. Any others that are online that would like to add, that would be great. And we'll, at the end of that discussion, we'll either pass the resolution as is. We can pass it with changes during this meeting, or we can table it for a few days and come back together if the board sends us back to do more work on it. So we can take any of those three actions. So go ahead, whoever's going to lead that discussion. I assume, Garrick, you're going to start with that, and Jimmy and Eric will join in.
Great. Kirsta, can you pull up those documents? So just a little background here. This was put out by the state a few weeks ago, and it's kind of, we liked it, and we kind of adopted this as we address and kind of frame how we're trying to solve problems as we move forward. And you'll kind of see this in our thinking. But phase one, kind of like the thing we just pulled up with different phases in opening businesses and other things back up. There's some things that different phases that we're looking at here, or concerns as we move forward in making sure kids are taken care of in the immediate and then also into the future. So that initial phase, which is the phase where we will talk about grading and making sure people get credit, making sure that things like graduation take place, but just taking care of the immediate needs of kids without harm. And Jim and Eric will kind of take you through in a second our plans for ending the year and then also grading, and then we'll move into that resolution. We'll also talk a little bit about right now there are kids out there that online education is going really well, but we would assume, if you can go to that next slide, Kirsta, we would assume there's going to be some gaps that are created. So we'll have a plan over the summer to really address that. Depending on where we are and what we're allowed to do, we'll determine what we do with that summer program, and then there'll be a return and recovery. So we'll kind of take you through that a little bit, and Jim and Eric will start with just taking you through the end of the year and grading.
Okay, let me, I'll go through secondary first. And kind of following the lead from our state superintendent on down to our building level teams, school, you know, a brick and mortar type of situation has always been about, we know we have the kids in-house for a certain amount of time a day. And then the idea is that when we find barriers to student learning, we have the ability within the time frame of a given school day or school year to try and figure out what those barriers are and give access to those kids. Well, that's kind of out of the possibility right now. And in this phase one that you saw from the previous slide, under phase one, two of the academic priorities right now was one, providing opportunities for students to continue learning through the rest of the year. And two is providing as much as possible social and emotional well-being for those students. And so the question comes in, you know, how does grading play into those priorities right now? And the truth is, grading is a bit of, it's a square peg in a round hole in this kind of a situation, because the typical way we do grading as a feedback loop doesn't work very well when the kids aren't in our building for a certain amount of time during the day. So again, following the lead from our state superintendent on down, the idea is that there would be no failing marks from fourth term. And so for the high school, we are proposing that this would be an ABC, P, a no grade given as marks. We decided for this hybrid approach because we know at the high school level, GPA does matter, scholarships do matter, and getting into college entrance matters. And so we wanted students to be able to achieve a proficiency grade if they so desire by how much participation they have on online learning. So we would allow students to shoot for an A, B, or C. If they choose for just the pass, they would get the pass mark, anything below a C there. And then if they did not engage at all with us, they would receive a no grade. And then coming back this fall, the high school through summer programming and into the fall would have a plan for trying to find those no grades and getting them caught up on the essential learning. The middle school would be slightly different than that. The middle school grading isn't as delineated for college and scholarships and GPAs. And so for the middle school, it would be simply an A, P, or no grade. No Fs again would be given. And so that still allows those kids who really want to pursue A's, they can choose that. Otherwise, it would be a pass or no grade option, again, with the plan coming back in the fall to help students catch up on things missed that we determined were essential. Through all of this, we kind of, if you go up to the timeline there, our plan is that the last day we would be giving new assignments to kids would be May 15th. That leaves the week of the 18th through the 22nd for teachers and students to finish their coursework, review, make up. And then as students kind of finish up that year and accomplish all they can do, the last few days would be returning their computer devices and kind of winding down the school year. Any questions or comments, Todd, if you have any input on that from the board or from anybody?
Jim, what would constitute a no grade? Give us an example of a no grade.
So a no grade would just to kind of tell you kind of this Herculean effort that schools have done on a weekly basis. All of our schools the teachers are giving feedback to the administrative team of kids who are not engaged at all. They haven't logged into any course. They haven't responded to any teacher emails. And then the school we've got paraprofessional aides and secretaries that are spending a tremendous amount of time calling all of these kids and parents to find out what's the barrier. Can you get access to the internet? And kind of notifying the parents, hey, your kids just haven't engaged at all. And so a no grade would really be these students who, despite all the efforts of the school, just are not participating. And the reasons for that are wide. I mean, we have some older kids that are working full time now because there's been loss of job in their homes with their parents. We have some that both parents are working and the parents are just saying, hey, we're bowing out right now. We're just we're just making this an extended summer because we don't have the ability to do this. Again, we try to resolve their concerns when we do it, but a no grade would really be just kids that, despite all of our efforts, just have not engaged at all.
Jim, do you have a percentage feel for that, of how many that fall into that category?
I think over 80% of high school students are participating. It's really very similar to the participation rate we had before we went remote.
And I would say the middle schools are about that. It's a pretty high percentage, but the middle schools are sitting on a weekly basis with about 100 kids that they need to try and track down, and the high school would probably be an equivalent percentage there.
So from the high school perspective, it simplifies to, is the student working for a proficiency grade, a participation grade, or without evidence of proficiency or participation, we would choose to do no harm by giving a no grade instead of an F, because a no grade does not calculate into the GPA. There just has not been any evidence that the student has been participating.
So Todd, if a student was doing well through 3/4 of the year, and then because of this issue, they just haven't participated for whatever reason it would be, is that going to be a no grade, or is it going to be based on how they did in the third quarter? Or I'm just trying to see what kind of questions might come to us.
Yeah, I think I can foreshadow some of those questions, and I don't really see that one coming from the public as much. However, I will answer it and say, depending on the course, and I think that there are some courses with widespread participation that we could easily award credit with a P grade. I think some of the proficiency-based courses, core courses, academic courses, if students are not ready for next level learning, I think they need to spend more time on that. And so we would do no harm with a no grade there. And so there really is a lot of reliance on teacher expertise and some subjectivity in determining whether to award credit or not. Something that I think that you will be faced with is as families think about this, I think that many students will elect for a P grade instead of a proficiency grade, especially if the proficiency grade is below their cumulative GPA. If they're used to getting A's and they get a B, I think the student may elect to choose a P grade instead of a B grade. Everyone that we've talked to, including colleges, NCAA, UHSAA, regents, et.cetera, are acknowledging P grades this quarter. And so I think that many students will choose a P grade over a proficiency grade if their proficiency grade is not desirable. And we're ready to accept that.
Do they have a choice? I mean, if they go one direction and then don't like the grade, and they say, well, I want to switch back to this proficiency grade?
So
yeah.
we put a deadline for both the high school and the middle schools that students have up to May 27th to kind of let the teacher know which route they want to go. And, you know, we're operating under a mindset of flexibility during this time where we're all being a little flexible. So I'm sure after May 27th, if there's a parent or a student who wants to get with that teacher, that we'll kind of work on that. But that's, we've put a deadline because at some point we have to know how we can end the year, but we did give them to the 27th.
There wouldn't be any secrets, Corey, if they would know what their grade is so they could make the decision on the pass or fail. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't have to guess. They would know I'm going to get a B or I'm going to get a C, and then they could decide, okay, don't give me that grade, give me the P instead.
That's right. If you see kind of under the timeline, coursework is finished by May 22nd to allow for that last 3 days of school for students to make some of those decisions.
Okay. And then if we pass this tonight, when are we going to let everybody know? What's the communication rollout plan?
Well, if we make this resolution tonight, we would probably do this as soon as possible. You can see we've already got it ready to go. And you guys are probably feeling this pressure, same as us. Multiple school districts around the state are giving these kinds of resolutions right now. We're fairly similar to almost every district that's passed one of these so far. But we're getting lots of questions just about parents need to know kind of what the goal is, what their expectation is, how long is this light at the end of the tunnel going to take, and we feel we would want to get this ASAP.
Listen, I want to just tell you, I appreciate those who are trying to communicate with parents and students that aren't engaging. I appreciate the time that they're spending to try to find out why, to, find that bridge or whatever it would be to get them involved. And so I appreciate, and I think we needed to do that. I'm glad that we have been trying.
I can speak to that real quickly, just so you know. That's our secretaries are making those calls at Wasatch High School. And so we have been taking taking names of students from teachers that they're requesting a systematic contact for. And then the announcement this week is if students have 2 or more NG grades, then our secretaries would make a personal phone call home.
My son in high school, one of his teachers called me and just explained, hey, I've noticed that Cameron's, or I shouldn't say, I've noticed that the grade is starting to dip. Is he having a hard time? And really talked it out with me and called another time and got a hold of my wife and really went out of his way to make sure if there were any questions that they were being addressed. And so I just am really impressed with the effort that's coming out of the high school and the middle school. But it's coming out of the high school to make sure that kids are not just not doing anything, but that they're kind of trying to see where they are and how they can help. This hasn't been an effort, at least in my observation with my own kids, this has not been an effort that, hey, if they're not going to do anything, we'll just let them go down that road. They have been calling. They've been right on point on this is where your son or daughter is, and this is where I think, even down to the video that they could watch to help them with that subject. And so I've been super impressed with the high school and their effort.
A comment I want to make on that, Mark, and I appreciate that. We'll let the teachers know. But some of the thoughts that have been on social media is like, hey, this is a way you can prevent having to build buildings. Let's just do this all the time. And I can tell you from my experience in talking to these teachers, the reason this is working right now is because by the end of third quarter, these teachers love their kids. They have relationships with their kids. They're invested in them and they're rooting for them. They're their champions. And these teachers do not want to see these kids fail. And almost without exception, as you talk to teachers, their workday has grown by 50%, just because they're trying to find where to get to the kid at the point where they can communicate with the kid. So it's amazing when you have these times of incredible adversity, people who step up, and we've got a lot of people stepping up right now.
Yeah, I really like this proposal. I think it covers everything that we need to cover. I support it. I really like it. One thing that I would, and I know, Todd, I know you know the kids, and the counselors know these kids individually and know who would walk away from participation or what situations the kids may be in that may be causing them not to be able to participate as much. But having said that, I just hope that we really lean on the side of caution for these kids who may not have the structure or the abilities to get credit. And so I know the counselors know them individually. And like Jim said, they've known them for 3 quarters now, if not a few years. But just really lean on the side of caution to not put them behind credit-wise for graduation.
And
we agree with that.
I would also add to that too on the grades, A, B, and C. I think we err on the side of compassion on that. And I think I hope that's the direction we can go with our teachers.
We agree.
Thank you.
Any other questions about secondary timeline or secondary grading?
No, I like it too. I echo what Board Member Davis said. I like this proposal. I think it's good.
Hey, Principal, is this something that do you believe that this is a program or a decision that can be extended if necessary if we're into next year? Or would you have to rebuild a whole other grading policy if for some reason this thing trickles into the fall and we're talking Q1 of next school year? I guess my question is, can this just be applied to future COVID problems or issues if we're finding ourselves in the same spot next fall?
I believe it could, and I believe that there are many reasons why we should examine this as a better way to grade, really, anyway. I really like the idea of proficiency marks and credit marks for participation. I like the choice there. One thing that we would have to watch is what colleges, NCAA, Regents, UHSAA would do moving forward. But given this situation, I think it's the best idea. Teachers really are having to focus on what constitutes credit for my course, and are students really ready to move on to the next quarter study? It really sets up our intervention too.
There is a silver lining with this type of stuff. There's a few silver linings, and one of the silver linings is teachers have had more robust conversations with their PLCs about what is truly essential and how do we know if they know it, more than they've ever had before. I think they're going to come away with a much more laser-like focus on, here's the stuff I'm providing to kids, but this is the stuff they have to have if they're going to be successful at the next level.
There's no other questions for secondary. Eric, you want to run through elementary real quick, and then we can move to that resolution.
Their schedule, they're really planning on teaching those last few things through the 15th, but then by the 22nd, they're hoping to be able to assess formatively as best they can where the students are at, taking in the assessments before the soft closure. And certainly as they've been working with students in small groups and individually to help the teachers and the students to understand where they're at with those things that are most essential to them being able to move up to the level. For elementary, it's been great for us that we've already had a standards-based grading system. We're going to continue with that. All of them are based on a 4-point scale. Some of them start at 0 and others start at 1, but still all of them are 4-point scales, which help indicate to the students and to the parents and the teacher where students are at based on that mastery of those levels. And so elementary is really trying to keep this as similar and consistent to where they were even before the soft closure as they have been. So we've been fortunate that way at the elementary level. And I can just echo the things that are happening. The stories have been told at the secondary level with the elementary level. They've been going through Herculean efforts, I think, to reach out to students. We had one EL teacher that wasn't getting, a lot of their kids weren't contacting them, and they were reaching out, and the teachers were reaching out to him. And so he said, I don't know how to get a hold of these kids. He was calling them parents on Sunday nights. And so then he said, I'm just going to start delivering the lunches to them. And so instead of the families coming to the elementary school, he jumped on the bus that was going out to their neighborhood. And that's where he was making those contacts with students. And we have those stories all the way from across all elementary schools, all the way up to the high school, and the ELL team that's working and showing up at kids' houses and talking to their parents and at work and doing whatever they can to make those contacts. So I think it's tremendous, the efforts that have been made. So that's kind of the elementary where we're at with our timeline and our grading. Any questions regarding elementary?
Eric, so do you see as far as for moms, parents at home that are working with elementary kids, do you see that by the 15th, then the assignments will be completed at that point? And
for the most part, yeah, the new assignments will be done. Some of the schools are concerned about some of the kids that are lagging a little behind that they would still use to the 22nd, maybe to do some one-on-one with kids. That would be some instruction that way, working with parents and students. But for the most part, yeah, most of that will be done generally to classes by the 15th.
okay,
Like, I know their big effort there in elementary is a bit different because you want to keep track of their proficiency to even pass along to the next grade level based on what they have learned. And I know they've got a pretty hard focus right now on getting as many kids as they possibly can to the greatest proficiency they can. So if they're a 1, getting them to a 2, 2 to a 3, so that they're comfortable with the progress that they're making. And the teachers have done a really nice job. Again, like Jim said, with the secondary, focusing on what's essential and really putting in an effort, whether that's in small groups or individually, trying to get those kids to where they need to be considered proficient in their subject areas.
thank you. That makes sense.
Any other questions for elementary? So I guess, Kirsten, if you want to put up the suggested resolution that we have, and they can kind of pick it apart and decide if they like it based on what we just said. Kirsten, do you want to read through that?
Sure. Whereas, so a resolution authorizing 4th term K-12 grading policy for a no harm approach during the COVID-19 pandemic. Whereas on April 28th, 2020, the Wasatch County School District Board of Education authorizes a 4th term K-12 grading policy for a no harm approach during the COVID-19 pandemic. Whereas Wasatch County School District has prepared the following policy, and whereas the school board has reviewed the following grading procedures and steps and believes that adopting the policy will be in the best interest of Wasatch County School District students and is necessary for the efficient conduct of Wasatch County School District schools. Now, therefore, it be it resolved, the Wasatch County School Board of Education hereby authorizes the 4th term K-12 grading policy for a no harm approach during the COVID-19 pandemic. And then we have the high school, middle, and elementary processes for grading below it.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on passing this resolution. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Thank you for all your work, those who've been involved with this. I think this is a great plan moving forward, and great for our students and our teachers.
Great. One more thing to bring up, going back to those phases, and this is more of an informational item for the board, and it's number 4 on the agenda, the CARES Act. So with the money that has been distributed by the federal government, and you know there's more coming, we don't know how that will work in the future, but right now we've been given an allotment of around $340,000 through that CARES package. The purpose of that money is again, if you look at those 3 phases, and where we're going to use most of it is in that second phase in a bridge program. So like our elementary teachers are reporting on the proficiency level of kids, and each school at this point is thinking through a summer school model depending on the phase that we're in on 2.0. If we're in moderate, we'll figure out if we can actually bring kids into the school or work virtually, but we'll continue to reach out to kids and make sure that those gaps that we're aware of, that we are inviting kids to continue to work with teachers, probably mostly through the month of June. Maybe a little bit of flexibility depending on a teacher and a kid's schedule, but to continue to work with them on making sure they're proficient. And in the middle level, we'll work hard with kids that are more looking at, well, a couple grades below level in reading, make sure we continue to work with those kids. So we have a plan in place for those funds to continue to work with those kids. We want you to be aware of that. And then on the last phase, the recovery phase, some of these funds will be used as we return. The way we do school will probably not be like we did it before. There's going to have to be training on protocols as kids come back in, and what those protocols are going to be based on the phase that we're in. So and also making sure we have the right equipment and resources, whether those be masks, hand sanitizer, all those kinds of things that are becoming more and more a part of our life, that those are in place as well. So again, that money will go basically to two main spots in our plan. One is that summer bridge and working with kids academically, and second, making sure we've got our adults and things in place to bring kids back safely. We've talked several times about how safety is our number one concern, and making sure that we have a plan in place and training in place and resources in place to make our schools safe for our kids so that the learning we want can take place. So that's just an information item, and just also to see if you have any questions on that.
Yeah, I got a quick question, Garrick. So from Jim's observation and Principal Johnson's observation of the percentage of students that are falling through the cracks, is that, we're going to be asked that. And if we continue to say, well, if we say 20% are falling through the cracks, and that's similar to what it was when we had school as normal school pre-COVID, then we're gonna, and I know that number may be inflated because we don't want to say that our teachers aren't doing a good job. So if we remove that and it's just clear that they did an outstanding job, and we've recognized that, and if this rolls into next year, how sustainable is that 80% in a hybrid format where we have kids going to school in small groups and the majority of them going to school online? So my question is how do you sustain the 80% if that's the standard of those who fall through the cracks, regardless of virtual or in person? And this phase 3 approach, like, what do we have to do to maintain that 80%? Because education is the great equalizer. It doesn't matter if you're waking up in the trailer park or in Dutch Fields, you go to the same place and the quality of education is the same. However, I believe that this is causing more stress on households in that equality is not there. And the longer this occurs, and I know we're just trying to get through the month so we can go into the summer, but everything I'm hearing is school's going to be different in the fall. And how do we maintain that 80% equality across all students if we rely heavily on this virtual component? Thoughts on that, Garrick?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I'll let Jim and Todd or Eric also give some input on that. So I would agree with you 100%. I do think this can, I think the worry is that gaps, and that's why that summer bridge program is called the summer bridge program, is because the gaps are going to widen. When we have kids in schools, we have a much better shot of guaranteeing them to engage, to learn what we want them to learn. And I don't think there's a way virtually, to be honest, that we can duplicate that. That's why if you look at that summer bridge program, our elementary teachers are and principals are chomping at the bit to possibly get kids into the school to work with them rather than go virtually. That being the case, when I say we'll come back a little bit different, I think that's under a hope, I guess, at this point, and maybe even a little bit of an assumption that we'll be in some of those less invasive phases, and kids will be coming back in the school, but it will be under protocols that will be set up between administration and the health department, working with like Ben Springer and his group to make sure they're safe, but they would be in a classroom. I think that's our hope. If not, I can tell you the approach that Wasatch has taken for several years now has put us in a place to be as effective as we possibly can be. The fact that they're zeroed in on essential learnings rather than covering a curriculum is so critical here, and is going to remain so critical because it helps us stay focused on what we need to stay focused on. And if you look at the numbers, I mean, we're gathering the data right now on where every elementary kid is, for instance, on every learning target within those essentials and who needs help within those. The numbers look pretty favorable, especially considering what we've been through. And there's plans through that summer program. We're just like anything when you hit any crisis in life or whatever, what it forces you to do is to shrink back to the basics and make sure that your foundation is really strong and solid. And that's how we sustain our way through this, is to make sure that we are so solid on what is essential for kids to learn. We zero in on that. We differentiate support, which we are right now. And I think that's going to give us a chance to sustain as long as we can with most kids. I do worry about those like Todd's talking about in the high school. They weren't great attenders. Elementaries, I think you still have quite a bit of influence there. Middle, you lose it a little bit, but not as much. High school, the kids that don't attend, they're hard anyway. Now that it's virtual, it's just amplified the situation. And that's a group that we're just going to have to continue to go after the one individual at a time. And it's going to be a very individual process with those kids. So I think that's probably my thoughts on that.
I might add, Tom, also, one of the things I think we as an institution, our administrators and teachers have learned so much through this process that I think even going into next school year, we'll take those things that we've learned, especially on how to connect with some of these students and make sure that we're doing things in different ways. One example would be creating some of these routines that the students need to have to be successful in this type of hybrid environment. I mean, this was kind of sprung on us, and a lot of kids and families, I think, were surprised by that. But I do think that through this experience, we know how to set kids up better through practicing routines, even when they're in the school classroom, so that if they do have to go home, that those routines could maintain and hopefully help that 80% to grow even higher. You know, and at the elementary school, we've been fortunate that, you know, our participation's been more 90 plus, you know, and that's typical for, you know, the little kids and the families as well.
You know, once you kind of pave a road, it's a little easier to see how to make improvements. In the secondary setting, we typically take a few weeks before we start intervening with kids on where we perceive they need help. I think you're going to see us, because we already have the schedule in place to start intervening starting day one. But we normally haven't needed to start intervening on day one. I think we will this year. And to Eric's point, I think this has woken the whole education community, including parents, to the idea this could happen this quickly. And it could, now that we've paved this road or made this road, I see government officials being able to say, at a drop of a hat, hey, schools, we want you to go virtual for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month. And so it's a new skill set that we're going to have to train students of what does it look like to be a student, not just in the 6 hours of school, but if you're at home. And we didn't really have a chance to have those kinds of conversations with kids, but we will now.
I would say that there's no substitution for the social experience of schooling, and it is vastly the main thing that we are trying to accomplish. With that said, though, the resiliency of our organization has provided new learning, and the thing that I'm most pleased about is that just because we couldn't teach the way we wanted to teach over the last few weeks, it didn't shut us down. And we've gotten out and we've gotten into homes and we've continued the learning very, very well. And for us to say that we still think that we're reaching over 80% of our students, given this environment, I would put that up to any other school in the country in our ability to reach into homes and to still provide learning with a teacher, an expert in place that is guiding the process. I just feel so proud of our institution and what we've been able to accomplish.
The investment in technology is remarkable. I don't know how any of this could have been done without it. So that's been just remarkable that our district has been able to adapt the way it has.
Kind of
just saying that's helpful.
Kind of to sum that up, I think as an organization, we're an organization and you take care of masses, but it's really about your ability to be aware of and kind of go after the one. And with our focus on essentials and different things like that, I think that's how we're going to sustain ourselves through this, is just being able to pick up triggers through looking at data and other things and being aware of the one and meeting the one's need, just like we attempted to when we had the kids in the school, but this has just put a hyper focus on that, and we're getting better and better every day at that right now.
I would suggest as we think in large picture terms, and as we think about our goals to move closer and closer to the top of the state in achievement results, and not to, I don't want to depersonalize this because it is all about individual students, but as an organization, I believe we're gaining ground during this time. I don't think, as we talk with other districts, and especially what we hear from, our state leaders, and whether it's state curriculum leaders or even the state superintendent or others, they don't say it publicly. They try and be fair with everybody, but they tell us personally, they tell me personally that we're just not aware of another district that's doing this as well as we are. And I think achievement wise, we're the fact that we have our essential elements very well prescribed, and that's what we're after. That's what we're teaching our kids, and that's what we're basing all our instruction on. There's so many places around the country and even in our state where that's just not happening. So I think that this group of directors that we've been listening to, all of them, we've got a tremendous group of leaders right here that have led this effort, and that extends to our principals. And then we're just so proud of our teachers and the efforts they've put forth. And we don't ever want to get complacent, but everybody's really put the effort in, and we've got a group of very talented and forward-thinking leaders that have made this work well for us.
No, that's great. The question that I still have is, how sustainable is this? And can we get some data to back up who's fallen through the cracks and what it will look like if we continue to run school like this in the future? And what I'm getting to is, this is a slippery slope. I mean, we are so good and we will be so good, and we may never go back to normal because we are so good. And I'm still at the point where I think the sooner and the more steps that we take to be able to show that normal is better than an A and a B schedule, 4 days on, 4 days off, or something like that, because that will be the new norm and we'll never build another school again.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think on just equity standards, that's the greatest endorsement of a physical space of public school. Our entire efforts are to get kids back into school as fast as we can, and the best way to do that is to be as safe as we can. And never before in the history of public ed do we have more of a battle cry than to say we need human beings in the building or equity just falls off a ladder. And I think the fact that we have these wonderful buildings, we have the wonderful capacity and the technology, as someone who has to mind access to, content, based on exceptionalities or at-risk kids, having the ability to return to public school is going to be the most essential things that we can do to repair equity. This pandemic has exposed equity gaps. If you don't have a public school to go to and have the teachers there to work with you, you're going to drop, and there's not going to be any way to get them back. And so I think our efforts as a leadership team, talking with principals as far as it comes to equity, is we want to build the safest response, the safest school, so we can get kids back ASAP. Because if we have those kids in our building, we're not gonna lose the equity battle. The longer we don't have kids back in the building, that equity battle is going to get more and more serious.
Great point.
Now there it is, Ben. That's where we need to go. We need to be able to tell the story of the equity that isn't occurring in this state that we're in, and be ready to push back when appropriate as we're faced with the decisions of what the future looks like.
Yeah,
and
I appreciate that. I mean, I think I don't want to, but part of my job is to keep tabs on students with special needs and kids at that risk. And I can tell you there's not a single parent who doesn't want the equity of both respite and access to a quality education in a public school building. And these facilities need to be nice. They need to be clean. They need to be up to snuff so that we can enforce safe standards. When we return back to schools, the best thing that we're going to have is the ability to clean and sanitize and have the state-of-the-art equipment to keep these buildings and these equity machines ready to, for kids to get back into.
I don't know how you measure the social impact for these students too.
Yeah.
That we talked about, that just the opportunity to go to school and socialize with your friends and your teachers and mentors. How do we measure that over the next 2 or 3 months and what those students have lost?
You're absolutely
And
right. We want to get back in. We just got to do it safely.
That's a good idea,
to your point, to your point, Tom, public education has a public purpose. And like you said, this is the great equalizer. Our public, the quote unquote, the public suffers when public education can't provide all this. I mean, it's no small thing to say the entire American form of democratic government depends on all the public being granted access to participating in this whole thing. And, we kind of miss, it's exacerbating problems all the way into people's homes when we can't have them physically coming to a building. So it's not just that the schools can't sustain this perpetually. It's our communities can't sustain this. The American form of democracy totally changes if you don't have access given to all people in the public ed.
Well said, everybody. That's great.
That's it for us, Paul. Blake, thanks.
Good discussion, everyone. Thank you.
You want to circle back now, Blake, to Sean's presentation?
Yes. We've done the resolution. So I think the remainder we can talk about the aquatic center. And then I think after that, we probably will move into our executive session with a short break.
Okay, so the thing that I need some direction is if you guys are ready to move down the road of opening the pool. it's possible for us to do that as soon as Friday. I would suggest that we don't do that at least until Monday, the 4th or 5th, whatever day that is. But I think we can open it with really strict parameters if you are willing and you guys are saying let's move forward. I just need some direction from you guys.
Sean, is it open for both exercise and recreation, or just exercise, or do we have some, can you help us with that?
So that depends on us. We can do either way. I suggest that we first just open for exercise and not the activity pool. I think that the plan right now would be to call people in for appointments. I have a preliminary plan from the pool staff that we would be able to look at if you want. But our plan right now is just exercise. Call people up or have people make appointments. They get an hour. We have one person per lane. I think when you open the activity side, you're going to have a lot of management problems and people coming that we just don't. I think we need to be slow in the opening and let's try it with just the exercise side first. There's 2 lanes on the activity side that we could use as well for lap swimming. We could at some point open up classes and say we're going to have Zumba or water aerobics today for 10 people to be in. There's some pretty strict requirements about keeping a log, taking temperatures, making sure that our staff is masked as well as gloved. There's wipe down protocols. I mean, Tyler's going through this right now with his business, and we would follow under the same requirements that a gym would have. But we can be as restrictive beyond that as we want and say we're only going to open till noon and we're going to try it that way. That would kind of be my recommendation, that we just start slow and then maybe day by day analyze it and say we're ready to move to the next step and open even a little more.
Totally agree, Sean. I think you got to go at this. Just my understanding now of all the parameters here in the moderate category. If you get too aggressive and try to do everything, you're going to set yourself up for failure. So I think kind of cornering off part of it, I think it's a great idea. And move slowly within the whole rules and regs of everything.
And we're not getting a ton of pressure right now, but I think we will. And I think you saw that with our tennis court opening. It's amazing how many people are over there playing tennis. And they're not from the same household. They're not wearing masks, and they're there all day long. And most of them are older people. And I know as soon as we open it, we're going to have people want to come. Now, preface that with saying we don't have a huge push right now to open it, but I think we will as soon as people start hearing about these other moderate openings. You're going to have people want to come and swim. And we may have people want to come and use the activity side. I don't think we open that right now, but I think people will start wanting us to open.
Yeah,
but we can say, nope, we're not going to do it at all till summer.
I look at it more at the activity, maybe when we get to that 50 plus or 50 plus, that 50 and under group, that maybe the activity pool could be open at that point. But I do think you'll have pressure. I know those aerobics classes in the morning were getting up around 30 people. So I think you'll have some pressure there along with lap swimming. But I think we ought to start opening and see what we can do. But I like the slow approach. And we'll have to limit, how many can be in each class and schedules.
When the document is vetted, I will have Stacy send it to you guys so you can see the protocols. Right now it's pretty rough draft, but they are working on the protocols for us to open up. And I've highlighted a few. We'll have a plexiglass wall up for the person sitting behind the front desk. We'll make our employees wear masks and gloves. We will every hour wipe things down. We'll take temperatures. We'll keep a log of that. It's pretty extensive, the requirements that the health department has. And I asked Randall that on Monday. He's like, are you really going to come and check the log books? And he pretty much said, yeah, by law and by governor's order, we're going to have to come and maybe do random checks and make sure that you guys have that. This is not what she's showing you right now. This is our return to school plan that the school nurses and that we're working through. And I don't know, does that mean you want me to move on? Is that why that was posted up there?
No, I didn't have the document. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I can take a hint that it's time for me to move on. So when that document's done by the pool, I'll send it out. And I think by Thursday, we'll have that ready to send to you to open possibly by Monday, unless you have any objections.
I like that we're starting slow. I'm glad that we're getting moving. I think it's a good idea.
Okay. So now the next document that we want to talk to you about, if that's all right, Superintendent or Blake, I'm not sure if you have other things, but Stacy put it up there once. Good. So this is a document that the school nurses have put together. As directors, we've looked at it a couple of times. This is very draft form as well of in the summer when Garrick talked about that CARES Act and us going back to that summer bridge. If we are in fact going to let kids into the school or for device return and other parameters, we want to have a plan ready for the safety of our employees as well as the other kids. And again, we all know that masks and that do not keep you from getting the virus, but it keeps you maybe from spreading it. But it's a safety thing for people to feel safe and secure when they come into a building and other people have masks on. This is a pretty extensive plan. And if you want to scroll down, Stacy, we'll just quickly look at it. There's things about graduation we talked about today with Todd and his group about how we need to do that. Keep going. We'll screen the people as they come in with the screening questionnaire. We'll clean constantly. End of year supply return and pickup. We'll try to vet this as easily as possible to make sure that, again, we're thorough, but ease for public, that it's not a labor intensive project for our patrons to come and return things. Keep going. All of these things are for potential going into the yellow zone, which would be when we can let more people in. We've talked about before, I mean, when we get to the green zone with the governor's guidelines that we talked about before, we won't do any of this other than, tell kids when they're wash your hands, stay home if you're sick, do all of that. So this is a document that we're working to help our staff and our principals be ready for the next phase of getting kids back into the school. Any questions about that or anything that you see that you're like, whoa, what about that? I think
Sean, I have one question.
Okay.
When we open the pool and the plan that we have right now, maybe Tyler knows the answer to this as well or can shed some light on it. Let's say somebody goes and gets tested who has swam at our pool in the last few days and they get tested positive and they ask them all the places they've been and they name the pool. What is the protocol at that point? Do we know yet?
Do you want to talk, Tyler?
Yeah, Mark, what we're hearing is if we have certified this plan with the health department and we are following the rules to the T, we should not be responsible for that.
Okay.
That's what we're hearing. So because then it becomes into, well, did you get it here or did you get it there? It's tough to determine where exactly a person got the virus. So in our defense, and then there's further legislation coming down that will legally even protect us. But right now, everything that we're hearing is if we're following our plan, certified by the health department, that shouldn't be a problem.
The only thing that I will add to that came up in today's meeting with the task force is the moderate zone is still telling people that they can go out if they're not at risk. Those high at risk people and people with compromised immune systems are still asked to stay home. That's the part of the orange thing. And they're going to really emphasize that. If you are immune deficient, you still are in the red zone. You shouldn't come out, and they can't force you at this point. They haven't, but that's one of the recommendations they're making in the orange zone is high at risk population. We're still asking you to follow the red requirements. Yeah. And I think that Tyler said that other part, I don't have anything to add with that. That's the only thing I would add is they're still asking people to stay home. Now we know how it goes. The pool is going to have 60, 70-year-old men, 80-year-old men come and want to and swim that are compromised, and we're not going to turn them away, but we're going to make sure we screen them, take their temperature, ask them if they've been sick or cough or fever, and if they tell us no and still come and swim, we're still going to tell other people to social distance and stay their 6 feet apart and not to be within 6 feet of other patrons, and we'll just do our best. I think right now we'll probably limit the amount of people in the pool to 10 to start. Just as that's about what lanes we have, and to keep them there for an hour and clean in between. But we're worried that, and I think everybody is, that opening up is going to make the cases go up. But at the same time, it's coming. We can't continue to live like this, I don't think. And I think it's the right decision to open things up, but opinions are just that. Everybody has one. So any other questions about the pool or opening up?
Is it limited just to 10? You said we'll start with 10. Do we have the ability to go higher?
Yeah. But right now, Tom, the thing that we want to try first is one person per lane. And you can reserve a lane for an hour. And that's why I say 10, because you have 8 lanes in the main pool, plus the 2 in there. There might be 3. Thanks, Blake. 3 in the other one. So 11 to 12. And I haven't talked to Steve about the time, if it's an hour or 45 minutes, and then 15 minutes to sanitize again. But we'll work all that out. But we want to start really slow, and it might be the next day we say, hey, this is working so well, let's bump it to 20. But right now it's one person per lane.
Okay.
And
no,
I think
I agree. I think it's interesting to know just what the min and the max is. So
the max is 20 on the moderate.
Okay.
And I think, with our discussions with other gyms that are open, there's a few in Logan that are open. What they're finding is people aren't jumping at the chance to go just yet. I think you're still going to really see a lot of people self-limit for a while. And I think that's where Sean is accurate in. We can't just say we're going to allow everybody in to start here with. This has got to go slow. It's got to be a slow build. And as we work through the moderate rules and regulations, there's going to be changes, and we'll add a little bit as we go. But right now, it's very wise to just do this as kind of a slow burn, and do this slowly, and not get ahead of ourselves and put the cart before the horse.
One thing, Sean, I would maybe look at is block out an hour where they could do an aerobics class or something like that.
Yeah.
They have to social distance throughout that pool. But talk to Steve about that and see.
Okay. I'll let you know before. I'll send you the documents that tell you what we're doing. And I agree that the aerobics part is something that's people are going to want to do. And it might be whenever the time is, say that's all we're going to do. It's just the 10 people, first come, first serve, that sign up. Those 10 get in. I don't know.
That's kind of the model we're doing with our space too, is it got to, you've kind of a sign up and then you can come in according to when you signed up.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Superintendent, anything else we need to discuss as a board?
I don't have anything else. I think we've covered it.
Okay. Board members, we're actually going to cancel our executive session. We'll reschedule that at another time, but we'll just move forward. I really appreciate everybody's time and all the work that's been put in for this discussion today with graduation, grading, the pool, just everything. Thank you for the time and effort.
We have a lot of good people in this district. We sure do.
We do. Some great leadership. So thank you all, and we will get back to the board as far as if we will have a regular scheduled May meeting. We'll get back on that if we need to. So we'll get back to you.
Thanks, Blake.
Hey, Blake.
Everyone.
Hey, Principal Johnson.
Yes.
Just before we drop, I don't want to speak for the board, but definitely myself, I would be open to look at some type of a moderate adaptation to your current graduation plan under the guidelines of groups of 20, especially looking at 30 days from now in the middle of May. So I'd be open to that.
Thank you. We'll try to work on something.
Okay, anything else? Anyone? Any other comment or? Okay, I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.